So why I'm here? I'm here today together with Kathy, Jared, Liz, and Jane, because we all believe it's time to rethink dementia. Okay. But first things first, what is dementia? Here I have provided a definition of dementia, but basically all you need to know is that dementia is an umbrella term that is used to refer to several conditions, all affecting memory and or other cognitive abilities, such as the ability to communicate. And because of people with dementia have these cognitive difficulties, they also can find it hard to conduct some activities of their daily life, such as shopping, cooking meals, and dressing. There are many different types of dementia. The most common one is Alzheimer's disease, but other common types are vascular dementia, dementia with Lewy bodies, and frontotemporal dementia. And all these different types of dementia affect different cognitive abilities, especially at the earliest stages of the condition. So one thing I want to stress about dementia is that it is a progressive disease. So this means that the cognitive difficulties that people with dementia have are milder at the beginning of the condition, but they become more and more severe as the condition progresses. So this is something very important to keep in mind, because when we think about dementia, we often have in mind only the late stage of the condition when people are more impaired. But on the earlier stages, people with dementia can still do many things. They may require some support and some adjustments, but they can still do many things. This does not mean that earlier stages of dementia are not challenging. Each stage of dementia has its own specific difficulties. Moreover, people with dementia have also to face age-related challenges. These could be other illnesses, mobility problems, pain, problems with their hearing, with their sight, and even reduced energy. There are also many other difficulties that are related to the way in which our society treats older people, which is not always positive. For instance, it can be harder for older people to be given important roles within society compared to younger people. But so on the one hand, all these difficulties and challenges can have a negative impact on what is the quality of life of people living with dementia. But on the other hand, we also see that people with dementia can show high levels of resilience. And with the right adjustments and support, they can engage in many activities, including gardening, singing, cooking, and even using the internet. So basically doing whatever they like doing and whatever helps them to maintain a positive outlook in life. Here we have even example of people with dementia who are activists, and they have done all sorts of amazing things. Some of them have written poems, others have written books, and others again have produced paintings and even banners. And what all these people have in common is that they are trying to let us know what it's like to live with dementia, and perhaps we should listen to them more often. Sadly, this more heterogeneous depiction of dementia, of a condition that, although it involves some challenges and difficulties, it does not eradicate all positive aspects of life, is not always depicted in the media and in publications. And I believe that Liz will tell you a little bit more about this later on. What I want to focus on with the remaining of my presentation is on how people with dementia perceive themselves. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about a study we conducted in order to figure out how people with dementia perceive their own aging, and whether those who perceive their aging more positively also report having a better quality of life. So what we did is we first look at the attitudes towards their own aging that people with dementia had. And we did so by asking people with dementia to complete some questions about how they feel about getting older. And we asked 1,537 people with dementia to complete these questions. And so some of these questions capture some positive attitudes toward getting older. And for instance, an example of positive attitude is feeling as happy as they were when they were younger. But there were also other questions capturing negative attitudes towards getting older. And an example of negative attitude is feeling less useful than when they were younger. So we put together the answers provided by all the 1,537 participating people with dementia. And what we found is that people with dementia have a mix of positive and negative feelings about getting older. So for example, 64% reporting being as happy as when they were younger, whereas 36% reporting being less happy than when they were younger. Another example is that about half of participants felt less useful than when they were younger, whereas slightly less than half felt as useful as when they were younger. And again, this may be due to older people having fewer opportunities to be useful and feel useful. We also asked to the same group of people with dementia how they feel about their lives. So we did so by asking them to rate as good or poor several aspects of their life, including their memory, their physical health, and also their living situation. And again, also this time we put together the answers provided by everyone. And here, for ease of representation, we divided participants into three groups. So the first group includes those people who scored the lower on the quality of life questionnaire compared to the two remaining groups. The second group includes those participants who scored in the middle compared to the two remaining groups in the quality of life questionnaire. And the third group includes those participants who scored higher on the quality of life questionnaire compared to the two remaining groups. So now I want to show you a graph which represents the levels of attitudes towards their own aging that people with dementia had in relation to the levels of quality of life that they reported. So for those of you who are not familiar with graphs, on the arrow at the bottom of the graph, we have levels of quality of life, and we have the group who scored the lower on the quality of life questionnaire on the left side of the graph, and the group who scored the higher on the quality of life questionnaire on the right side of the graph. Whereas on the arrow on the left side of the graph, we have levels of attitudes towards their own aging that people with dementia reported. And these can lie on a continuum, and we have more positive attitudes on the top of the graph and more negative attitudes at the bottom of the arrow. So as you can see here on the left side of the graph, the first group, which is the group who reported lower level of quality of life, also reported mostly negative attitudes towards their own aging. Whereas the group in the middle of the graph, which is the group who reported middle levels of quality of life compared to the two remaining groups, this group reported a mix of positive and negative attitudes toward their own aging. And finally, the group that is represented on the right side of the graph, which is the group who reported higher levels of quality of life compared to the two remaining groups, reported mostly positive attitudes towards their own aging. And therefore, having a positive attitude towards their own aging helps people with dementia to live better. So in summary, what we found is that being positive about aging and being positive for people with dementia matters. So perhaps if we all start thinking of dementia as a condition that, although it does involve challenges and problems, it does not eradicate all positive aspects of life, people with dementia may start thinking about themselves and about their aging in a more positive way. And this may lead to living a better life. So I just want to thank you all for listening, and I leave it over to Kathy and Gerard.